about the lending process. If you're talking about looking at the benefits of the mortgage, sounds like somebody needs to mute. Would please. But the any point where you'd be talking about rates, fees, terms, or ownership costs, you heard some references to the total cost analysis. That's the presentation that we're referencing in today's call, where it could come at the beginning of the loan process, in the middle of the conversation, even post-closing to win a repeat transaction. If you can make the shift from price to advice, you really can commit the customers faster and you can have higher profitability loans presented. Mortgage Coach is used by some of the largest lenders in the country, whether we're talking about independent lenders, depositories, credit unions. I share that because it's forward-thinking lenders in general know that you can make that shift from price to advice. And while we have a lot of great brands that utilize Mortgage Coach, under 10% of all home loans get an analysis like this. So to speak to the point of being a local competitive advantage, everybody here can disrupt other lenders by getting customers to see this level of insight and then being able to commit with you instead of those brands. And that really does come from the science behind the advice. And one of the most important parts of the science is that you have to be able to show any loan product compared to any other loan product. And it's no new information that large producers, people who do real volume, understand the full depth of products that can be offered. Do you have the DPA solutions? Do you have construction to perm solutions? Do you have debt consolidation solutions? Do you have student loan debt adjustment solutions? So real mortgage advisors take the full breadth of products that the lender can offer, and they can make sure that any borrower with the ability to repay matches a product in your portfolio. And this is an area where many lenders struggle, because talking about the nuance of different loan products that you offer can be difficult. But when you achieve that with Mortgage Coach, you'll see profitability improve, you'll see production improve, and you'll see that product mix adjust. And that's because, again, at any point in the lending conversation, you're able to lean on the total cost analysis. So you should be seeing an example total cost analysis on the screen. This is a live presentation that gets sent to a customer. So this is the same way it will work for you. The first thing that happens, whether they click it on a mobile device or they click it on an iPad or even a computer from 10 years ago, they're going to see this disclaimer disclosure language that's dynamic. So as an organization, your team sets up a lot of different variation based on what's actually presented, which means your originators have a compliant way to have a very wide-reaching conversation, something you can't do with PDFs or emails. As Howard alluded to, all of the presentations that you produce can be narrated. So this video that's appearing can either be generic, or it can be something that is personalized to every specific transaction. And so when you think about your ability to connect the dots and get someone like a renter to look at the benefits of purchasing, a first-time home buyer, or all the different points of intimidation that maybe is not only your buyer's intimidation, but somebody in their network, their parents, their gift down payment provider, their friend or family member that thinks they know something about the loan, now you're able to address that audience too. The presentations that have narration are shared 4 times more often. And that speaks to the point of just how easy it is to consume the presentation and produce it. Loan officers have been in the business for 20 plus years, equally to loan officers who are just entering the business. Everyone needs to be able to explain loan products. It's as simple as delivering a link. Whenever we can, we pull in information from other technology that lenders are already using. And one of the things that stand out about your organization is the depth of existing technologies that you use. I'm going to touch on Optimal Blue. I'm going to touch on Top of Mind. One of the services I'm told you use is Experience.com. So all of your reviews get placed inside of every total cost analysis. This is pretty powerful, because when we look at the amount of consumers that click to read and consume those reviews every month in the TCAs, that's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of opportunities to show this content that many consumers wouldn't ordinarily see. If you run a Google search, or if you try to find reviews, some customers execute that, others don't. Some stumble upon them, others don't. But in this format, every single time you quote a product, your reviews will be front and center. And it is that synergy of taking the objective information of all the loans that you can offer and the subjective information of how people in your local market see you. And it's very, very powerful. The total cost analysis can show up to 5 options side by side. So in this example from a credit union, you can see a current mortgage, a 30-year, a 15-year, cash out, a reinvestment. I mean, the type of things that you can show are infinite. This could be different properties. They could be different loan scenarios. You could show negative values in the charts and graphs. You can show positive values. The emotions of the individual customer are part of what you can lean on. You can expect to see the presentation be as detailed as you need it to be or as generic. I might have a Facebook marketing campaign where I'm just showing high-level graphs and charts. I wouldn't have this level of detailed closing costs. I can be having a specific conversation with somebody who's in the process, and I can be going into the depth of detail of individual costs. The presentations, depending on what's being presented, can be co-branded. So when you think about your referral partners, when you think about how do you help them introduce this level of depth and advice to their customers, you can have things that with a listing agent, for example, you can package financing options around a home that they are representing. And that gives you the opportunity to introduce the total cost analysis to their customers, whether it's from folks that are already trying to get qualified or unseating another lender in that conversation. You're even able to go to the depth of the presentation of showing very detailed financial strategy. So above and beyond just the mortgage, what about what you'd want to do with each individual liability in a debt consolidation? So we're able to take all that liability data, compare side-by-side options, and really drive into how you can use the mortgage as a long-term part of your financial plan. So again, the presentation can be as simple or as complex as you need it to be. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just quickly put this actual presentation in the Zoom chat. So aside from just the screen share that we're all in, anyone that clicked on the link in the Zoom chat, what it's going to do is it will render the same total cost analysis that you're seeing on my screen on your screen. And one of the things that you'll notice as it comes up is as I'm highlighting content, that content is moving for you. As I drive into the closing costs and want to talk about some specific closing costs, that's going to move for you. So much like how we're on this Zoom right now, you have that live connectivity to the customer, but they don't need another login. They don't need a special link. They don't need anything outside of the total cost analysis that you already delivered them. And all of the information is live. So not only could you highlight various components of the presentation you want to draw their attention to, but if you're going to change the price of the home, maybe they fell in love with a home that's, you know, $100,000 more expensive, you'd be able to instantly update those numbers and those numbers would move for them. And updating those numbers can come from 2 places. It can come from interacting with our software, so coming into Mortgage Coach and adjusting that presentation. So here I'm in that debt consolidation that all of you or any of you that have clicked that link are looking at, and I'm able to pull rates from my pricing engine. I can bring that data in and update those rates, but I can also push data to Mortgage Coach. So if this screen should look familiar for everyone, this is an Optimal Blue pricing screen. And so I come into Optimal Blue, whether I'm coming direct to their website or whether I'm coming through the LOS, it's going to deliver pricing results to you. And what you'll see now is you'll see a Mortgage Coach column. So you're able to select the loan scenarios and the pricing engine that you want to illustrate. You simply click the Mortgage Coach button, and now it's instantly available as a completed presentation. So all of that data that you have run in the scenario now comes over into that comparison, and you have the ability to instantly narrate it if you want to. So the ability to have the presentation have instant narration is completely capable through that integration. So if you think of your existing workflow, anybody who is running pricing today through Optimal Blue, no reason that tomorrow when we turn on the enterprise version of the solution, that they wouldn't just check these boxes and begin delivering illustrations. All of these integrated sources, whether you're pulling the data into our solution or it's getting pushed from outside solutions, they all get aggregated in the Mortgage Coach automated screen. So I know some of you use HomeBot. We can talk about HomeBot. Some of you might use other solutions, a home binder or other items. All of these out of the box integrations, we have more than 26 today with more coming next year, just push those presentations into our solution. So if you think of Encompass, for example, you might pull a loan from Encompass, or maybe a loan that you did 2-3 years ago, and you might apply a new strategy to that loan. So as was alluded by your peers, all of these strategy templates, all of the pricing templates, all the product templates, when it's an enterprise solution, is now controlled by corporate. You can add your own, but they add an entire library for you. So now if I came from any one of those solutions, Optimal Blue, Encompass, Simple Nexus, I'm able to now just apply a scenario to that lead or to that record, and now have a presentation that I can further customize and I can deliver to that customer. So the ability to quickly tailor something that's hyper specific to the consumer using your existing integrations is part of what makes the opportunity together really special. And I want to highlight just one of those particular integrations, which is your point of sale. When you use solutions like Simple Nexus, and I'm going to pull my phone up here and pull up a Simple Nexus instance, you'll see that when the presentation, or when the loan application is started in Simple Nexus, it immediately just pushes that record into Mortgage Coach. So the concept of being able to see the presentation within the point of sale and to not have to enter in that data is certainly part of the value proposition of the integration. So in this case, if the Simple Nexus record came over, you'd have that same capability. Looks like Zoom is not liking sharing my phone. We'll come back to that integration. But certainly all of the fields from your POS would appear in the solution, and you begin simply modifying it. Same is true with your CRM. So if I'm inside of Surefire in the top of mind solution, and I'm looking at a record, and now I want to generate one of these loan comparisons based on that record, I'm able to generate that presentation. I can click on the loan scenario and loan comparison tab in top of mind, and I can begin building that presentation. So it will have the ability to say, what was the loan that's in the CRM that you want to use? Here's the closed loan. Let's add that. Now it's accessing all the templates that are already inside Mortgage Coach that your organization has set up. So now you can, inside of your existing CRM solution, you can build out some of these scenarios, whether it's for an individual or for a larger marketing campaign, and you can generate that Mortgage Coach report. Very similar to what I showed in Optimal Blue. Now I've used an individual marketing record, and I've created a presentation that's once again able to be narrated and able to be sent. So all of these integrations really work in a very unique harmony to certainly minimize or eliminate the data entry that you have to put in. And here's that Simple Nexus example that I was talking about a few moments ago. The Simple Nexus app comes up, someone starts the loan application, you'll instantly see a Mortgage Coach analysis appear in that solution. So every single borrower that makes an application through Simple Nexus can now get a comparative experience. Whether or not you further personalize it is up to you as an originator. And so you can see that here inside of the experience of your point of sale, they're seeing that comparison, experiencing that live highlighting, hearing the video and audio narration without ever having to leave your app. Part of what makes that pretty ongoing value pretty influential is people use updated presentations to bring folks back into Simple Nexus to reapply or retransact. So it gives folks a really good reason to come back in and see their actual closed loan and see future loan analyses, such as that debt consolidation that I showed a few minutes ago. Before I take a look, Chris, and answer questions that are in the chat, I do want to talk for a moment as if there were no integrations. So, millions of presentations are delivered by individuals such as the folks that are on your team, as well as many lenders that use our solution without having these integrated points. And so you can go from the beginning to the end in under 5 minutes with no integrations. Some lenders have, some integrations. So when you think about your organization, what happens is different places where we can pull data simply get exposed. I showed or talked about the Optimal Blue data where you can pull that data in. Another key point, we pull data from folks like Closing Corp. So you can import the data directly from the Closing Corp solution, or from other sources like MI. So when you talk about wanting to get the actual individual risk-based pricing from an MI loan scenario, you can actually run those figures appropriately by getting MI pricing from the common MI vendors. So assembling this presentation, whether it comes fully completed from an integrated source or whether you're building it by interviewing your customer live, many consumer direct organizations build this analysis while the customer's on the phone and the customer watches the graphs and charts appear. And so that type of capability is native, whether you're pulling from individual sources or you, again, have a fully completed presentation. Everything that I showed here works on the phone as well. So if you're mobile, it's 10 o'clock at night, you've received automated notifications that your customers are viewing the presentation. So every time you send one of these presentations, every time it's viewed, you get a notification it's viewed, how long it's been viewed. So you have an opportunity to talk to the customer at the right moment. All of that capability, all of that information is being aggregated into the solution, again, whether it comes from an automated source or it comes from you individually. Last integration I want to mention, Chris, before if you and Dawn could help field some questions and make sure that we're directing things where they need to go. I know a number of you are HomeBot users. And so our HomeBot integration is just another example of fully automating the total cost analysis. So for those of you that use HomeBot or have heard of HomeBot in your organization, you upload all of your past contacts to their solution. It uses AVM data about the house to send a digest that looks something like this. When these solutions, whether HomeBot or several others that are in the market, when they show teaser rates or high-level financial insights, they can't get into the specificity necessary to talk about true mortgage advantages without some of that key compliance language and calculations. And so folks like HomeBot and others, when the customer tries to drive to that level of detail, they lean on Mortgage Coach. So for all of you that have HomeBot today, what happens when these get sent out now is that a detailed button will appear. They want to see more information about that specific loan option. It'll create an automated analysis. And you can either deliver it right away, or you can create an artificial delay so that it appears to take more time. But the concept being that the data that's in HomeBot and the information in your existing loan record allowed that analysis to be delivered no effort. And that's one of the things that's important that delineates the enterprise from the individual versions of our solution, is this focus on you should be able to deliver the TCA whether someone goes in and manually creates it or not. So I'm going to take a pause. I'm going to go back to the example TCA that I showed before. And Chris, Dawn, if you could help direct some questions. Or Howard.
Yeah, we have a few, and Dawn's been answering them, but we'll ask them anyway, just in case people are not on the chat. Howard wanted to know if the borrowers can adjust numbers on their own, or do we have to, does the LO have to update the information?
Right. So through the integrations, depending on the integration, if they're updated, like if I update my numbers in SimpleNexus, they'll update in the presentation. But in the core presentation itself, we don't let customers change these numbers. We have a strong belief that calculators kill deals when people run scenarios that they don't actually qualify for. But the depth of connection between the originator being able to update the numbers and updating from your third-party sources generally addresses that. We do have clients that have used our APIs to make website forms and other lead gen activities that let customers change values, because of course, if you push the data to our solution, we're going to change that value right away. But through our core out of the box offering, we don't let customers change these values. We want the professional to do it.
We had another question about video. So I can say that, you know, LOs that use Mortgage Coach are more successful than LOs that don't use it. And LOs that use video are even more successful. But the question was, do you have to use an outside source to do a video, or can you do it right within Mortgage Coach?
Yeah. So you do it right within Mortgage Coach. These are not canned videos. These are not commercials. These are visual voicemails where you're capturing your empathy, your tone, your tenacity, your dedication. You're trying to make sure that there's a human voice behind the advice, because the paradigm shift from going from price to advice, there's a human component. And, you know, there's a level of empathy and understanding. And so what we did when we looked at video was we recognized, you know, average originator, there's some technical resistance, and, you know, nobody has time for things that take extra time. So originators really struggled with things like browse and attach, you know, is the video the right size? You record on a nice iPhone today and it's 300 megabytes. How are you going to deal with that? So we cut all of that out. So what I just did is I clicked in Optimal Blue and I instantly generated this presentation. But this is the same function, whether you went through a third party and clicked record video, whether you were inside Mortgage Coach, opened a record, clicked record video, whether you were on your mobile phone, clicked record video, you're always going to see the same three choices. I want to use my mobile phone's camera. So even if I'm on my desktop and I'm writing in Compass, I say, I want to use my mobile phone, can click use my mobile phone. I'm going to get an alert on my phone, and then I'm able to record instantly from my phone's web camera. I click in the browser. I'm now instantly recording in the browser. This video that I'm saying right now is being applied, and now that's going to be part of that experience. And in that moment, if I happen to be camera shy and I want to you know, only use the microphone, that's certainly an option too. When you deliver numbers without context, they certainly lose some of their magic. And so, you know, I can't emphasize enough, take the 90 seconds and put some voice behind the algorithms, but don't overdo it. Don't overthink it. It doesn't need to be every detail of every fee of every line item. You want them to get back on the phone with you, but it needs to be enough to show them that you're trying to build a financial strategy, that their home is part of their long-term plan, and that the lowest monthly price mortgage is not always the best option. And so if you can convey that appropriately in the video, you know, you can definitely move the needle. As a company, scripting like what I just went through, or other examples, Howard, that you and the team want to train on, can be directly loaded in the solution. So right now I'm back in Mortgage Coach. I've clicked on available trainings, and aside from just our webinars, aside from all of the videos that Dave produces every day, you've got built-in training where these are classes that we help you create, part of that onboarding process you referred to. And not only at onboarding, we can be a year into the relationship. You can say, Joe, we've got a really nice non-QM product. We want to train on it. We'll help you build this class. When you click on the class, that class is delivered inside the software. So as you move through building the analysis, whatever needs to be explained here in building the most effective analysis is within the lesson. So one of the areas we've seen this really make a difference for our customers, again, example like down payment assistance, where the complexity can sometimes appear to outweigh the benefit. Perhaps VA loan products, not enough people utilize the VA methodology to help some really important people have home ownership. All of those type of niche solutions can be tailored in a training format that matches your unique value proposition. And so having that level of capability in the software allows for that type of training and adoption as well. So Chris, I know I took the question in a couple of different places to address the core component of usage, but what else do we have in the chat section?
Howard had a question about the MI providers. He
Sure.
knows that there were 3 of them there, but he knows that there are 6 total. Are they limited to 3, or will there be more in the future?
There'll be more in the future. Today, the three that are there are the three that we support out of the box. All six we're anticipating before the end of the end of third quarter of next year, likely sooner. We've just taken a slightly different approach. We've coded directly to each MI provider. So some folks have taken a best X type of approach. We think that based on the relationship with the MI provider and oftentimes some of the additional services that they provide, for example, with Radian, you have unemployment coverage, at least you did pre-pandemic when you placed a policy with them. And so LOs can certainly leverage that direct type of understanding of the specificity of which MI provider has an advantage. But we do understand folks want all six. So Radian's next, followed by the ESET and the Genworth/Enact team after that.
Okay, we have one more, and when I'm done with this question, if anybody has any other questions, speak up. Yeah, everyone's on mute, so just unmute yourself and ask. The next one was from Chad R. If pricing concessions are being used or are needed, how do these concessions play into the offerings to the customer?
Sure. So you certainly can illustrate pricing concessions and within the illustrations themselves in Mortgage Coach, but you bring up a really important part of our ROI. And that is that when we survey our lenders that use Mortgage Coach, the number of exceptions plummets. And we have a number of lenders that they put the internal requirement that in order to get an exception, you have to have shown a total cost analysis. They have like an escalation process to request exception that includes a total cost analysis. So once you make that shift from price to advice, this concept of needing exceptions is significantly reduced. But if you need to illustrate comparatively, this is what you got from the Consumer Direct folks, this is what you got from other folks, and show how your exception is making the scenario more acceptable, we can show any sort of override or adjustment. It's kind of part of the infinite capability of the TCA. But from a management and profitability standpoint, the sooner that you talk about customers' financial capabilities that come through home ownership, the sooner you get them off of rate and exceptions just become unnecessary. But if there's any sort of follow-up questions or specific scenarios that you want our team to illustrate or create on your behalf as follow-up to this meeting to show certain scenarios, happy to do that. A lot of our builders and whatnot always ask for construction samples, and happy to show Howard any samples your team might need as a follow-up to this.
So just to make sure everybody, because it went through a lot of information here.
Mm-hmm.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm guessing that most of your customers are, people are good for us, most of our customers are going to fill out Simple Nexus, or we're going to apply through Encompass. Once that's done, since we're connected, all that information will go into Mortgage Coach, correct?
That is correct.
All the programs that are possible, if we do an enterprise level, we'll all have all that stuff in there. And obviously you're going to train us on everything and so on and so forth. The loans that are not locked, they're going to, if they don't price in OB, how will the pricing get into Mortgage Coach?
It can come from two places. It can be manual, so people can actually, type it in. It can come from templates. So as an organization, you're managing templates. These templates can be centrally controlled. And you can offer templates that have that information populated. You, of course, can pull from our UX from your pricing engine. So really no reason that you wouldn't use your specific pricing from Optimal Blue, because it's pulling that data without needing a SOC or a specific credit report. It's using estimated data based on what you populate. And lastly, you could use OB's average market indices. So we embed the OB values. You can instantly see what the industry is pricing, and you can utilize these values for your rates.
Okay, so have a customer that we want to need a quote. We're going to most likely already have their credit scores, although we may not. We can price it out in OB within the file in Encompass.
Mhm.
We'll price out MI in Encompass, and all that'll just go in, so we don't have to use the tools that are already in there because it's just going to suck in. Is that correct?
That is correct, but one of the things to kind of caution is thinking about every situation as a single workflow. One of the ways that Mortgage Coach complements the individual lending professional is they're leaning on the TCA at any point in time where rate payments terms or ownership costs may become an issue. So certainly we hope, as you allude to, that you're able to make sure that every loan application gets a TCA. But when you look at high producers, many of them are starting in Mortgage Coach. The first place they go is, hey, wait a minute, before we even talk about rate, what's your situation? What's your income? What are you trying to get out of this? How much home do you think you can afford? If you take someone through that high level 3-minute consultation, they're already your client for life, regardless of what your rate is. So many people use that workflow. They come in, click new in Mortgage Coach, build out the scenarios, talk to the customer, and then eventually pick which scenario they're going to use. So now I've consulted that person and they say, oh, 15-year, that's what I'm going to do. So now I say export to the LOS, and I actually push from Mortgage Coach into Encompass. And now you go into Encompass, you run credit, you confirm everything that they told you, and away you go and you build the file out. But what you did was you provided that advice up front. And so one of the KPIs that a lot of our lenders use is the application to closing or credit report to commitment. And your pull-through rate inevitably goes up because you're pulling credit on a more committed customer. Certainly, as you allude to, if they came through your digital, Simple Nexus, a lot of this information's also already filled out. But again, it's going from Simple Nexus to Mortgage Coach to Encompass. So all those synergies can work when appropriate. But your professionals could have many different workflows that they would lean on at many different times. Like I mentioned, they might have a scenario where they want to import a loan from Encompass that's 4 years old and do a refi transaction. So there's no one workflow is the point, Howard. There's any point where you want to mesh together a Mortgage Coach presentation, you can start or adjust from all of the products that you own today.
Okay. I'm going to just come at it from a little bit right now, a more traditional, how they're doing business. Mm-hmm. Just to make sure that anything that you're putting in Encompass goes into Mortgage Coach, and then you'll pick the different programs to do the comparisons, and you can have the conversation from there.
Yep.
Okay. So I guess the real, and I'm just trying to, because there's so much, the real high level use of Mortgage Coach is to simplify for the consumer which programs that they would want to go into, and maybe open their eyes up to different options that they weren't thinking about.
That is correct. Especially options that you offer that on a monthly fee worksheet might look more expensive, but if you look at it over the cost of time of 5 years, are actually much better loan products, and being able to illustrate them as such.
Right. So this is great for all your consumers, but the more sophisticated consumers even better for, because they'll understand all that stuff and take more things into consideration when they're considering which program to go for.
Sure, but I would not downplay how powerful it is to a renter. If you think about folks that haven't got off the fence, the solution is also bilingual, so it can be presented in Spanish. If you think about the upside down nature of how many minority borrowers still think you need 20% down, it's fairly upsetting. And so the presentation can be as simple or as complex as it needs to be. So while there's graphs and charts that certainly speak to your sophisticated borrower, your limited education borrower benefits from the same visualizations.
Okay.
Howard, there's another thing that I'd like to point out, and I don't think that Joe's touched upon it quite yet, is that yes, it's very beneficial for the borrower to see their options, but it's also an opportunity if the borrower has had a very in-depth consultation with the loan originator, and the loan originator uncovers that the individual might be burdened with consumer debt or student loan debt there's also a way to help that borrower get unburdened from that debt by options like debt consolidation or the integration that we have with LoanSense. So it's really opening opportunity in with the eyes that a borrower may not even think of.
So when you do the debt consolidation, will it tell you, well, what does it tell you?
Well, it has a lot of molding. I guess I'd say, what do you want it to say? People can do it as they're trying to reduce a payment overall. You can try to show, that you're going to increase payments, but you're going to pay all these things off. The magic comes from the fact that you can list any liability and what you want to do with that liability. So if I came back into Mortgage Coach and I come into debt consolidation record and I open the debts, I have an ability to either coming over from Encompass will have all the liabilities already, or I can manually put every liability and then on a scenario by scenario basis, illustrate what I want to do with that liability.
And will it also be able to calculate if you take the savings and put it toward principal, how fast you pay off?
Without question. And we call that the freedom point, and it's perhaps one of the most powerful points of consumer education that's underutilized today. They simply don't know that I can take my savings, put a couple $100 towards my mortgage on a 30 and pay it off in 13 years. They had no idea. Zero.
Right.
You can illustrate that very easily with Mortgage Coach.
And I'm sure you can also illustrate if somebody's buying and they're putting 20% down or more and they have debt, instead of putting so much down, maybe put less down, pay off debt, and it'll come out better for them in the long run.
No doubt. And the MI companies love that. You could show someone getting a little MI coverage and suddenly they got, 17% of their monies to reduce their other burdens.
Right.
Yep.
And I'm thinking also that this gives some even though it's not really third party, it gives some third party validation for the number for what you're talking to them about, because it's coming from a computer program instead of you just telling them.
Absolutely. I mean, the concept of being the teacher in this case is really important to understand. I mean, again, typical financial education is not delivered through K through 12. A lot of the terms that you're using in a mortgage transaction, most consumers, whether they're physicians or, the social workers, they're only doing a few of these transactions in a lifetime. So it is important to realize that, the neutrality of how you can present information as an advisor. Hey, these are your options. I'm not pushing you to one or the other. I'm going to answer your questions, and the best option is going to appear. I think creates a very, very different sales conversation. Mortgage Coach originators are not only among the top producers in the country. Of the top 100 originators, 35% of them deliver a TCA on every transaction, but they also have some of the largest portfolio business. So they're repeat customers. So LOs like Shant, who is the #1 producer in the country, I mean, to have that type of repeat transaction comes from giving this constant advice. So whether it's through your CRM or whether it's through your point of sale, I mean, getting customers to see this as a mortgage under management is part of the value that Howard you'd be acquiring by putting this in your brand.
So the other, I just saw before there was a tab that said, I think it was qualification.
Not qualification, maybe reinvestment.
No,
Let me go to,
other affordability.
okay.
So
Yep.
does that allow us to put in any kind of numbers or upload numbers so that the borrowers can put in numbers to see if they qualify for certain properties based on the property, or?
Not on an automated basis, but for yourself, because what this is doing is it's letting you calculate DTI and LTV so that when you're actually building out the scenarios that you're able to see those options. So when you're looking at a particular loan product, that the DTI and LTV would appear within your toolbox. So the consumer is not making those modifications. Either you are, or if they made modifications to those fields in a simple nexus, they would be coming over. But they don't have a screen where they're changing their income or they're changing their credit status. This is being populated by the professional.
Got it. Okay.
So all of the screens with like this type of interaction that I've kind of jumped back and forth, this is the LO's view. Only the LO will ever see these screens, or potentially their LO assistant, because assistants commonly log into Mortgage Coach. You can see I've clicked on the assistant access. The assistant is coming in and now working on the presentation on behalf of the originator. But this screen is only seen by professional users. These other screens that are the output, these are seen by anybody at any time, and oftentimes embedded in things like an email. So here's an email that goes out telling someone to look at their analysis. They click on it and now they see their analysis.
And I see it's co-branded with the realtors.
It can be on very specific presentations. So we've worked hard with compliance leadership and whatnot. What can be shown, what can't be shown, what can you show a tax benefit, can you not show a tax benefit? So there's certainly certain presentations that can carry the realtor branding, but all of the presentations can have realtor value. So for example, here's this credit union scenario. With this level of detail, it cannot be co-branded, but the agent can be included in the presentation and included in the notifications when people are viewing it. So these view alerts that you get, Sally Smith has viewed the presentation, Star has viewed the presentation. You can choose to let your referral partner get those alerts as well. And so, co-branding can seem very exciting on the front, but compliance is an important factor in a co-branded presentation. Where it's more important is, does the information give influence to the agent? And knowing things like the consumer is studying their financing, or hey, the consumer just asked the LO to increase the affordability to a larger loan amount based on the homes you just visited today. All of that sort of insight brings the conversation closer together, and in a way that LOS status updates don't. So you could tell an agent it moved from underwriting to funding and kind of moving through that process. But when you're talking about earlier in the conversation, when you're competing for 30 offers on, a home that 2 years ago might have had 3 if they were lucky, having the agent in the conversation is game changing. But again, certain things can be co-branded, certain things can't. And I'd be happy to talk through that nuance when it comes from a compliance perspective. On that note, every iteration of the presentation is captured for compliance. So when you think about enterprise value, certainly there's all the sales value that we just talked about, but from an enterprise value, the fact that every change to the presentation is captured, every time the customer views the information is captured. We've had a number of lenders that during state audits have used Mortgage Coach to win their position and be able to illustrate exactly what was stated in the context it was stated in. And so if you think about the fact that you have no visibility over this today, people can send any spreadsheet they want, they can say anything in voicemail they want. This provides both your LO a lot of protection to say what's needed, and the organization the guardrails to have such a solution with those kind of freedoms.
Who is sending a 926-minute video?
Development. This is, we're repeating things, we're streaming things down. We have a customer leaves it on 1,000 times. We stress test the system. So
I assume that obviously there's going to be once we decide what direction we're going to go and how we're going to do that, there'll be all kinds of trainings on each section, and there'll be ongoing trainings.
100%. Training, is part of the Mortgage Coach value proposition and part of our culture. I mean, I'll let the team kind of speak about it a little bit more, but the most important thing is that it is not upfront training, it's ongoing training. So the community is always offering classes. We'll consistently offer classes on a quarterly basis for you. We also provide a lot of transparency to, your producing managers, your branch managers. You have dashboards where you're able to see the progress of your teammates. We also give each LO individual feedback, so gamification. You'd be surprised or not to learn, how motivating getting and earning a badge has been to originators in our community. So they get to 20 TCAs, 50 TCAs, 100 TCAs. et cetera. All of this is tied to training. So we have a black belt training. We have training when you want to talk to CPAs and you want to talk to financial planners, you want to show short-term, long-term financial strategies. As Dawn alluded to, we have a training all about how to optimize student loan debt and show people how to use student loan debt payoff. So it can be, your originators can consume as much or as little training on an ongoing basis, but we offer a lot. But we do provide the transparency on who's attending what, and is that creating the results that we all want to see, which is, do most of your originators get to black belt status, in the first year of us working together? Chris, Dawn, anything?
Like I said, I think it's a great tool, and but there is an effort that you have to put up to use it. It's not going to just magically work like all the tools that we have.
No doubt about that. But we do, and at least in the last 2 years, we've made really large strides to close that gap. And I think the automation is one of those examples. So, we have a lender that has, well over 2,000 Simple Nexus users. Many of their Simple Nexus users log in and personalize the presentation, but some small percentage do not. Yet all of those consumers benefited from the comparisons presented. And so I would just note that that value proposition of requiring the learning curve does become augmented the more and more automations there are. I know you don't have Total Expert, you have Top of Mind, but Total Expert has some automated campaigns that have shown 10% plus response rates. Those same campaigns are on the way with Top of Mind. And so in that example, they sent out 20,000 annual mortgage reviews, and 1,200 of them raised their hand and said, I'll reapply based on that review. And that review was delivered 100% behind the scenes. The originator didn't have to do anything to that content. That new business just walked in. And so I share that with you because there is a manual element to Mortgage Coach, and there is now an automated element to Mortgage Coach. And so your IT team, your marketing team, all of the people working the stack, we can come up with lots of ways that your team will benefit whether they choose to log in or not. So I just wanted to make sure that's understood, because that's not the way it was just a few years ago.
Got it. Cool.
Joe, we only have like a minute, but there was one other question that somebody had. I want to make sure that we answer them all.
Yeah.
They said, are they able to create their own templates with an enterprise account?
100%. So I know I glossed over that. The enterprise can set templates up for you. Branch can have templates, individuals can have templates. So, go from the personal preferences of the person all the way to the best strategies of the enterprise. Chris, I know we're at time, but I also, it was mentioned to me that reverse mortgages are something that I believe there's some interest here in the organization. I would just note that we can show any loan compared to any loan except a reverse right now, but reverse is coming. And so you'll see this, sometime by Q2, we'll have all HECM loan support. So you'll be able to see the benefits of the HECM loan and show a HECM loan compared directly to a first mortgage. So we're really excited about our reverse innovations. We've worked with a number of the reverse LOSs to pull it off. But again, I wanted to mention it because it inevitably comes up for some niche within organizations today. But Howard, I'll turn the mic back to you, given that we're at time, and I look forward to the feedback from the survey.
So I'm going to, this is being recorded, so I'd like everybody to, actually, I'd love you to watch it again so you can watch it at like your own speed. I'm going to send out a survey to find out what kind of interest we have and what everybody feels is interesting. I know that some of you might still have questions. So with that survey, I'd like to get more of those questions so I can get those over to Chris. And then we'll go from there as far as how we're going to be able to use Mortgage Coach.
And I can get you the recording probably within the next half an hour or so.
Got it. All right. I thank everybody. Apologize again for my lack of technical ability, but I'm glad we can get together today. And like I said before, I think this is a great opportunity, and I just want to make sure that we're going to all take advantage of it.
Yeah, we're excited to work with you, and yeah, we're glad that that you helped set this up and we're able to do it.
Cool. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your Monday.
You
Thank
as
you,
well.
everyone. Thanks for
Thank
taking the
you.
time.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.